And welcome back, everybody, to the Market Knowledge Podcast. We're talking to CEOs, founders, and business leaders. And today we have Michael Toveg with Step Commercial Group. Michael, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Bob. Thanks for inviting me here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited about our conversation today because it's one of my favorite topics, of course, real estate, and specifically today, multifamily properties. But why don't we start it off? Tell me a little bit about yourself and more about Step Commercial Group.
Yeah, so I'm a multifamily broker. Been in the business since 2010. Work here at Step Commercial. Started here since inception in 2013. We focus on the greater Los Angeles multifamily investments, 5 units and above. Anything from 5 units to as much as 150 here. Some of the institutional stuff as well, and have a hyper focus in particularly the Long Beach area. The founder, Robert Stepp, he's been in the business for 20 plus years, mentor to myself, and we've kind of just organically have grown the business, I would say, in the last 10 years here. We're still a boutique firm, but do about 250 million a year, over 50 transactions, and just aim to be consistent.
Now, Michael, when you were getting into the business originally, there's a couple different ways to go. You can go office, industrial, retail, and multifamily. You went the multifamily route. How has that gone for you? Any reservations on you should have gone another direction, or you love multifamily?
I talk to my friends about this a lot, that if I could do it again, I think I would maybe be a loan broker. It seems, that sort of business is very, relationship forward, and you can definitely build a clientele, and you have repeat clients where, in this business and probably like yours, you're constantly fighting for credibility, right? There's always another cold caller out there calling one of maybe who you think is a client. But clients and investors are loyal to brokers that bring them deals. So as a result, I think you're always fighting for credibility. Why I chose multifamily, no rhyme or reason. I interned for my mentor and now the boss here, CEO Rob Stepp, and after college, worked at Charles Dunn Company in Los Angeles for about 4 years, and then reconnected with Rob to start Step Commercial.
Okay, great. So we're talking, I think you said 5+ units, 10+ units, Long Beach, LA, Southern California, basically. On the buy side too, so listing properties for sale, and then also working with investors buying multifamily apartment complexes.
Right. Our strong concentration, we are listing brokers, but with that, obviously, you have relationships that you develop and see which guys like to buy what type of properties, whether it's value add deals, turnkey deals. So you start to kind of put the pieces together in your respective market of which buyers fit for what properties. But we tend to focus more on the listing side. Apartment buildings there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. If we're looking at the broader markets, right? We got office space, of course, is going through its challenges right now, and it depends on the city that you're in to really kind of dial that down. Industrial still holding up pretty well. Retail seems to be also doing pretty well right now. Multifamily also holding up well, but kind of where are we in the cycle there?
So, transactions as a whole in LA County are down about 70% year over year, believe it or not. And it's just a function of interest rates. There's still a pretty wide gap between buyers and sellers right now. This time last year, interest rates were in the 4s. Beginning of last year, we were in the 3s. Now, really, a 5-year fixed rate that is pretty popular in multifamily lending is at 6.25. So as a result, that really affects where cap rates should be. Last year, a lot of cap rates were trading in the fours of, if the areas that I was focusing on. And, you need that balance of cap rates, either your existing rents and your existing cap rate, or your market rents and market cap rate needs to out achieve your interest rates. So, there's a correction, and I felt like we were close maybe a month or two ago of seeing, some market equilibrium a little bit, and then interest rates shot up another 50 basis points here. So, I think that kind of puts things on on a stop for a lot of buyers. Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about that as maybe there's more to come over the next 12 to 24 months with multifamily. Maybe, there's um, a bottoming out that needs to take place, over that period of time. So with interest rates that have gone up so much, are you seeing just a real lack of buyers right now? Some
Ex-
maybe just waiting on the sidelines?
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the smart money is waiting on the sidelines right now until the numbers actually make sense. You still have some exchange buyers, guys that are, want to go up in their unit count, whether they own a duplex, triplex, fourplex, and want to move into the 5+ world, or luxury home buyers. So, we're seeing mainly exchange buyers, but it's few and few just because transactions are down as a whole. So it's been a tough market for the last 6 to 8 months here.
And so cap rates expanding, right? Going
Right.
from, maybe in the fours. Uh, where do we go? How high do you think they go over the next 18 months?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's just all again dependent on interest rates. I think every day it gets better, right? Because I think there's a psychology for sellers to get realistic of where pricing needs to be. And nobody wants to be first in line for their $5 million property. Hey, it's now worth 4 million. Who's going to say sign me up, right?
Right.
So it just takes time. People like myself, yourself, talk to clients, what they read in the newspaper, loan brokers that they talk to, their friends. So, it just takes more than one conversation. And it's also, depends on their situation as well. So, like I said, I think every day gets better. I think towards the end of the year, you'll start to see maybe a little more market equilibrium. But again, it's just dependent on interest rates. And that's if interest rates kind of stay at that 6.25 or drop. If they do go up, it could take a little more runway. There may be a little more runway until we find a happy medium between buyers and sellers.
So maybe some opportunities coming up here in the next few months for on the buy side, but really the fundamentals are still though, right? For Southern California. I mean, the rents have been rising steadily. The vacancy rates are very low. There seems to be, and I'd like you to expand on this a little bit, just a ton of renters in the market. I mean, it's so difficult to buy a home in San Diego, Long Beach, LA. Prices are so high that you just have a lot more renters these days. And in fact, a lot of them will say, we don't want to buy a home. It's just not a good investment for me right now.
Yep. And you're exactly right. And California is a little more insulated than the rest of the country because of the lack of inventory. And for the point that you just made there, I mean, we're always going to be a state that's entitlement restraint and just land restraint of what you can actually build. So as a result, it's a very competitive market for tenants to get in there and, rent places, buy places, and it's just your simple supply and demand.
Yeah, right. And in the job growth and just the really the steadiness of it, at least here in San Diego with the life sciences and the tech business and some of the things that we have going here. And I think there's definitely some advantages in Long Beach, LA too, where there's just a pretty good employment base right now.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I mean, I'm selling a deal right now in Pacific Beach on Emerald Street, and I think you got three in the life science industry, and then the rest are all engineers, all making a very good living, and you know, don't want to move at all from Pacific Beach. And if they do move, they end up buying condos or homes, and those are really your ideal type of tenants.
Would you say, we hear about the shortage of housing in Southern California all the time, and I even say it's more, especially a shortage of quality apartments.
Right.
You feel the same?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's quality. I think it's really difficult to build in California, whether if you're by the water or in downtown. I think the state makes it and the city makes it very difficult for variant, a lot of reasons. Um, but it really only makes sense to build Class A apartments right now.
Hmm.
There needs to be more and more projects, whether it's housing authority type projects, Section 8 type projects, giving tenants a sense of relief, moderate income type of projects, so to incentivize developers. So I do think we see a lot of high end apartment buildings when they do get built, but you're just not seeing a lot of construction right now, especially in San Diego too. I mean, if you go if you go to Pacific Beach or some of these beach towns, I mean, it is as you know, it's very difficult to build out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the things got crazy, right, over the past few years with the
Yeah.
pandemic and the way that we look at things. The office market, which we talked a little bit at the start of our conversation, has changed a lot of bit. Where it's a flight to quality, and just the way we work has changed. How has that changed the multifamily apartment complexes and the way they view things? There's so many people still working from home, and even a lot of hybrid work now, where there's a few days at the office, but they also want to work a few days at their house or at their apartment. And I think it's changed the way people feel about where they live.
Well, as a landlord, your utilities have gone through the roof in the last, 2 to 3 years. So
Mm.
that is one thing. But I mean, it's been a challenging time. I think for both tenants and landlords, right? There's in LA County specifically, there's a lot of delinquency, and you couldn't evict any tenants. And there's a lot of tenants that had a lot of hardships as well. And there's, a few bad seeds that I think took advantage of not having to get evicted, and, kind of played that card. So that as a result, I mean, the courts are really backed up. So it's been very difficult from a landlord and just operating perspective for multifamily. In terms of behavior, I don't know. To your point, I mean, they're at home, right? Tenants are at home more. I think companies are allowing, their employees to work from home and are okay with that, once or twice a week, and some companies even 5 times a week, more remote work. So it's different, but I don't think it has a lot of effect on the multifamily space like it does for office in particularly, and retail. So people always need a place to live, and from that perspective, vacancy is always fairly low in the state of California, and especially the beach communities.
Yeah, I think people that are looking to rent and looking to work from home a little bit more, they just want it to be a little bit nicer. And I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe they want to have that patio now, or maybe they want to have that little outside area that they weren't really concerned about before. But now they spend a ton of time out there because they're
Right.
doing their Zoom calls, out there, or most of their work in a nice little area in their apartment complex, rather than before it might have been, hey, I just sleep here. I'm never here. but I feel like that's changed quite a bit over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you use the words flight to quality, and I think the same goes for tenants, right? And when you're, spending 60-70% of your time at home, that they want something a little, like you said, nicer, more class A, renovated. And we've seen a lot of landlords address that and renovate their units, and as a result be able to really increase rent. Because there hasn't been a lot of units on the market in the last 2-3 years. Construction took a little bit of a hold because of COVID, and you have a lot of tenants not really wanting to move, or maybe there's an eviction going on. So when you don't have a lot of units on market, it gets really, really competitive. But from I guess a benefit as a landlord and owner, you do get decent rent growth with that.
So really, a value add play, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what are you telling your owners now, your clients that are selling or thinking about selling? What's your advice to them right now as we go through this little bit of a transitional period, maybe?
Well, everybody's situation is different. We've had a lot of clients go out of state with their investments, more landlord friendly states instead of tenant friendly states like California. I think a lot of people are, sick and tired of the policies and politics out here, and feel like they can't operate their own property because of the state. So we've seen a lot of money go to Texas, Florida, Arizona, high growth states with really good, not population. What's the word that I'm looking for? Oh God, something migration.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, people are moving there.
Yeah, it will come to me. But there's a lot of people moving there. So, and then flight to quality as well. With interest rates going high, getting higher, we're seeing cap rates inch up more and more, and especially in really nice areas too. So what used to be a 3 cap, 3.5 cap, maybe now is a 4.5 cap, maybe even touching a 5 cap. And, I heard this the other day, is where you want to marry the basis and you date the rate, right? And I think a lot of people were just buying property because, hey, I can get a 3% interest rate. And, if the numbers make sense, then, that sounds great. Well, a lot of investments make sense when you're borrowing money at 3%. I think people are a lot smarter now, and specifically look for location, quality of the real estate. So it's and you can definitely take advantage of that in this market. Especially if you have equity, whether it's in your house, apartment building, what have you. I mean, equity, whoever has equity right now, you're in a really, really strong position if you are looking to make a move. Just because prices have come down, I would say anywhere from 10 to as much as 25% in certain areas out here.
Okay. Michael, as we kind of finish up here, last question for you. And I ask this to a lot of the guests that I talk with. What's a book or something that you've been reading over the past couple of years or so, or maybe listen to a podcast or something like that, that's really made an impact on your life these past few years?
Well, I'm a big sports guy. Love Kobe Bryant. So his book, Mamba Mentality, talks about just relentlessness, resiliency, the fact that you just got to show up, be consistent. So that really resonates with me. And it's funny, I actually keep a quote book in my office, and anytime I hear a good quote, read a good quote, I always jot it down, and definitely helped me, the younger part of my career when, as a young starving broker, and, you have some days where you're just like, is this really for me? And so, that book's got me through some tough days there. So, definitely a big quote guy and big motivation guy. So,
that's so good. Kobe was so great. And, I followed him when he was playing basketball and was a fan then, but, even more so now. And you still see a lot of his quotes, a lot of his stuff online. And I mean, he was just amazing. So I have not actually read that book, and so I'll check that out.
Highly recommend. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great
Well,
book.
great. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being with me today. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to keeping in touch and following the multifamily market. And let's catch up again, maybe in 6 to 12 months, and see where we are at that point.
Sounds good, Bob. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
All right.